Hello, welcome to our weekend hug, the left arm edition, the Monday edition of the BXG Podcast. Tonight, we both love the Chili Peppers, Brenton and I, and we brought on, we've tag team some podcasts together here from Tournament Style. We brought in Guillermo Delgado from Tournament Style, one of our favorite guys, just in general, podcast-wise.
Voted best guest of 2021.
Yeah, best guest. He is truly the best guest. We figured we'd get him on. He's a Chili Peppers head too. So we're excited. They have a new album out. We want to talk about it. But first off, Guillermo, how are you doing?
I'm doing. Oh, I gotta give the.
Oh, he's got.
Am I allowed to use my soundboard?
Sure.
On your podcast?
Yeah, of course.
Just don't use the Adam Driver one, please.
Right. No, I'm glad you heard that. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I just listened to that today.
Or do multiple times.
I think our new thing is going to be every week. I'm gonna on tournaments. I'm gonna have a new sound that I'm gonna spam Austin with, and that'll just be the purpose of that. I'm feeling good. You know, it's the middle of the week. You know, been working and stuff, and we just recorded with Austin a little while ago, and we actually stole a tournament this week. We stole it's a Barstool podcasts. I forgot, it's called like Lights Camera Barstool or something like that. And they do tournaments every once in a while. So now we're taking back the tournaments like left and right. We're just taking other people's
a tournament of tournaments is what we should have.
Yeah, exactly. A tournament of tournament podcasts. But other than that, doing pretty good. I'm really excited to talk about the record. I like, I like to talk about music, and it's awesome that you guys are Chili Peppers fans. I was the Chili Peppers guy in high school, so especially like in our friend group, and I think that's why I got that reputation. So I'm super excited. Thanks for having me.
First of all, I just want to say that you guys are absolutely killing it lately.
Thanks.
It's like no joke. I said it a couple weeks ago. It's like my number one priority podcast each week is to listen to you guys because it's so funny. And I've told you this. It's like I don't even listen to the tournament half the time. It's just I just like listen to you guys BS. It's hilarious. I think we were doing. I think I saw a poster in your room on one of the clips you had put out on Instagram. And it was the same Chili Peppers poster that I had in my apartment when I was in college. I think it was from the By the Way album era. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think I was probably known as that guy too, the Chili Peppers.
Nice, okay.
Especially in college, because I did a speech in my public speaking class on the Chili Peppers.
Nice.
So I was that guy. Maybe shamefully so, but yeah, I'm excited to talk about this album because I do think that it is kind of a return to form, but
let's hold off until we let's hold off.
I didn't know if there was a further introduction.
I just really like Chili Peppers, but I was always everyone always knew that I like pop music, and then I also like Chili Peppers and other things, but you know, definitely in my top 3 like favorite like newer rock bands, whatever that is. But let's get into it. Unlimited Love is the 12th studio album by the Red Hot Chili Peppers out of here in Southern California. Released through Warner Records on April 1st, 2022. It was not an April Fool's joke. Produced by Rick Rubin. The album reunites the band with legendary guitarist John Frusciante, who left in 2009 and then rejoined the band in 2019, replacing Josh Klinghoffer. So the number one thing I just want to get on this is how good is it to have John back? Number one, how good is it to have John back in the mold? Guillermo?
Biggest thing, and here's where there might be a divide with some people. Josh is a great guitarist, amazing, and I think he could play in the style that they needed really, really, really well. I think as soon as like with what you see with the album is like you said, the return to form of the writing, honestly, and it's so weird. Because you were talking about like you did a speech like in college. I think I could do like a speech on why I think, or like a music like project or research on why the Chili Peppers for me are the best 4-piece like ensemble in pop music of like the last however many years. Like and people are like, dude, like there's the Beatles, right? Or Beatles are 4-piece, right? Or no, they're 5.
Yeah, they're 4. No, Beatles are 4.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, my bad. Sorry. Bigger Chili Peppers guy, I guess, than a Beatles guy. But like I know all of them. I just have to count them, right?
Beatles.
Yeah. There's the 5th. Yoko was the 5th Beatle, right?
Oh yeah, there you
Yoko
go. Okay.
and Paul
Fair
and
enough.
Lennon, right? Okay,
yeah.
No. I really do. There's something interesting about their chemistry together that I feel like the writing like plays off. It's like a domino effect. I feel like Anthony plays off John's guitar a lot. Flea kind of comes in and like, you know, can play off. And Flea does a really good job of playing off everybody's melody. So if John has a good melody, then, you know, because Flea's one of the best musicians, I think, just of all time. Or Flea plays off like Anthony's melodies. And so that kind of comes in. And of course, Chad Smith is the Will Ferrell. That's the glue that holds it all together. But I feel like you really see it sorry, I went on a huge tangent, but you really see it in the songwriting. Like that's where John comes back. And as soon as a few years ago, he announced that he was coming back, I was like, oh, like, you know, I want to see it. I also think he's one of the best skilled guitarists of, you know, the last however many years. And he does a great job at like referring back to other great guitarists, which is an amazing skill too. But really for the band, like him being back, I see it in the songwriting. Like I feel like it instantly clicked. There's nothing out of any of these songs that doesn't feel like a Chili Pepper song, like easily. And I don't think they're all like the most profound best songs ever, but they are all easily Chili Peppers best ensemble, best 4-piece for me, like hands down.
What about you?
I think that when the 4 of them are together, it's a situation where they are, you know, the sum is greater than the parts kind of thing. Because, you know, the case could be made that Dave Navarro is a, you know, better guitar player, or that Josh was, you know, he was basically a John disciple. So it was on paper supposed to be just kind of plug and play. But I think that, and I've said this always, John's the secret sauce. As good as Flea is, as good as Anthony, you know, was originally with the whole like rock rap vibe, but then kind of like learning to sing later on, as good as Chad is, John's the secret sauce. And the first thing, and I actually said this to both of you in separate conversations, was it sounds like a backhanded compliment, but the best compliment that I can give it is that it sounds like a Chili Peppers album.
Yeah,
because they have such a unique sound. You know what I mean? I sat and tried to think about like what rock band maybe sounds even remotely similar to them. And I really couldn't come up with anything. Maybe Incubus a little bit, but they even have their own thing going on.
They're a top for me too, easily.
Yeah, I'm a big Incubus fan. But with John kind of coming back into the fold, the last album just didn't do it for me. And it wasn't produced by Rubin. It was Danger Mouse. And I couldn't make it through it. I don't think I've ever listened to the whole thing of The Getaway. I'm With You's not that bad. It's like, okay. And I saw him on tour with that album. And the funny thing about that was when they went on tour for that album, they mostly played Blood Sugar Sex Magic songs. Like that was half the show was Blood Sugar Sex Magic songs. They did Sir Psycho Sexy for like 15 minutes. But this album, and I think we'll get into some of the individual tracks, was just that kind of, it's a Chili Peppers album, but at the same time, it's a little bit more mature. And I think that comes with the fact that they are almost 60.
Dude,
which is weird. That's so weird. Like it doesn't, I want to say that thing where like, oh my gosh, it makes me feel old. It doesn't, like, nothing makes me feel old anymore. It's like we just age. It's weird to think they're old. That's what's weird. Like, because Anthony Kiedis still looks awesome. Like they're all athletic. Like
he's starting to get that like Iggy Pop. Like
he's got the Iggy Pop thing, but like I don't even mean like awesome in the sense of like he just looks like somebody that's probably like, you know, obviously doesn't do drugs or anything anymore. Someone just like seems clear-eyed and that kind of
full
thing.
Hearts Can't Lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen any
crazy.
have you seen any of their like late night show performances and stuff too?
Yeah.
Dude, they're simple, but it like just looks like they're having fun jamming. It's like, come on, 60 years old and like you're getting up and having a good time. Like they're essentially kids in a garage jamming, but they're also you listen to the record, it doesn't sound like this record and Stadium Arcadium are 20 years apart or 15 years apart.
No, you never say that
point. Like it just doesn't, which is just wild to like think that. So
I think this sounds like, in terms of comparison to other albums, I think it kind of, for me, compares most to By the Way.
Okay.
Where it's a little bit softer, because outside of Can't Stop on By the Way, maybe another one that I can't think of right now, but there's not a whole lot of like high octane, high energy songs on that album. And this kind of, that's the thing about this, it's like the one downside is I would say there's not that one like super high energy song. And they always seem to have at least one or two, going the whole way back to when all of them were like that. And then they kind of matured a little bit. And, you get like Around the World and that sort of thing on Californication, but it became more like real music, which is kind of weird to say, but it became more like, layered and stuff like that. But this particular album reminds me the most of, or I think compares most closely to By the Way.
I think it'd be interesting if you played all 12 albums to someone that's never listened to Chili Peppers before, which would be weird. Could you imagine if you just said like, hey, let me play you this rock band, their 12 albums, and then to see where they thought this slated in.
Yeah.
And because I think it would be in that middle part of their career. I don't think you would ever think no one would ever say it's in the latter part of their career. I just do not think. Yes, it has that feel where, like Brent said, it's not as like up, but the songwriting, like you said, Guillermo, is really well done. Like if you actually read the lyrics and stuff like this, I mean, you can feel that they were really getting into it. Like what I also like about this, because another podcast I listen to, they say like lyrics don't really matter. And I sometimes agree with that in a way where it can just be mumbling. And if the music works, this is an album where if you read the lyrics, the songs are awesome. But if you're just chilling, you can vibe out to this. Like to me, this is a total vibe. We were driving, listening to this, and I was like, "Oh, Janie, what do you think?" And she goes, "Oh, it's just old Chili Peppers, right?" And I was like, "No, it just came out today. We listened to it Friday." She goes, "No," she's like, "I thought this was an old Chili Peppers album
for sure."
And it was just one of those things where you can just like vibe out, lose yourself in it. That's what I really like. But I think maybe let's go through some tracks. Maybe like our favorite, something that stands out. But the first thing I'll go into is Black Summer is the lead song off this album. It's the first song. It's the one they put out there. What's our thoughts on this, as the first song they chose to have as a single? Guillermo.
Let me start off saying, just because you mentioned it, I really, because you're talking about the songwriting and like the lyrics and stuff, maybe hot take, maybe not, but maybe hot take. I really think this album was Anthony's writing, was a huge, I think that was the shining thing, because it kind of showed like he might weirdly be like one of the best songwriters of all times. And like you mentioned, Brendan, he didn't start off as a singer. Like he started off like they would jam and then Anthony would like rap his poems, on top of it.
Yeah.
And now here it's you've seen how good of a writer he is. And I really think the Chili Peppers have written some of the most recognizable music in the last 30 years or 40 years or whatever, and some of the most iconic songs. And you really see here, Anthony is like using old writing techniques of his, but also he's a good songwriter, and the way he knows how to write a melody, which is really interesting. And just to see that, like, this album, it's like, back to a different guitarist, and it's like they're at this like end of their career. Just the fact that he's still owning that skill and using it well, and look at all the tracks he wrote, all these lyrics,
17 songs.
Many, it's crazy. Like he might be one of like low key one of the best songwriters like of all times. And he's not, I think it's low key because like he's not like Adele, right? He's not like the best singer. He's not like, but he's he's a poet that has an amazing band to be with. But I just wanted to say that.
I'll butt in real quick on that because I think that is a good point. Like I said, I think the lyrics are really good, but it is an album where if you read lyrics, that's awesome. The thing I'll bounce off of that is he's also not someone that promotes his lyrics. I watched him with it. They were on Howard Stern this week, and I watched the interview. And Howard Stern asked him about one of the songs. He asked him about "These Are the Ways." He's like, "What's it about?" And it took Anthony so long to get into it because he doesn't want to boast about why he's a good. He doesn't want to do that. That's not his jam. He's never as good as the Chili Peppers have been, or as good as a songwriter. He doesn't talk about him being a songwriter. He just wants to jam.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's kind of the thing.
They're the ultimate jam band. They're the ultimate 4-piece. Well, and then transitioning off that, there's a couple. There's one song in the album that I think is the John song. I really think Black Summer is the Anthony song. I think they start off. I think there's, there's a few things just the lyrics are a little bit more they do refer to things that have happened in the last few years. I think it's sort of I don't know. I get a lot of Anthony stuff. I don't know if you guys and I don't want to even mention this because I don't remember much, but I read the Scar Tissue bio maybe 20 years ago when I was in high school. But I know his dad's name, or he was an actor, and his nickname was Blackie. And so whenever something, for me, Black Summer, there was something there to that, and just the allusion to, just a lot of things. I really feel this is the Anthony, the more relevant lyrics and the let me kind of sing song, and it's very balanced too. But for me, it's a good single. It's not the most catchy. It's not Snow. It's not Scar Tissue and stuff like that. But I think it was a good single. I think it was a good choice to release it first and to put it first on the album, because I also feel putting it first on the album, it was okay, people, we've heard it, and then just go past it to the rest of the album, which holds up. I don't know. It feels like it served all of its functions well. It was a song for Anthony. It was a good enough single, and it starts off the album, and I feel it's it's for me. And I watched a couple of performances they did on late night shows. This is a good live song too.
It is a good live song. Yeah.
So I think that was just a really smart maneuver on all those parts. But song's okay. I think what makes it better is how it's served all those functions. I guess for me, not to talk too weirdly. Sometimes when I talk about music, it's kind of weird. But
you are a music teacher.
You are a music teacher.
It makes sense. Me talking about music's it sounds good, man.
Yeah. I mean, that was the gist of what I said.
Yeah. I do have the first edition. Here it is. It's tough.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, nice.
It's hardcover. I had the little paperback one with that has Anthony on the cover.
Yeah. I don't. God knows where the sleeve is. I really like the way that they introduced this on social media with just the first 15 seconds, because immediately okay, it sounds like John.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of got me amped up for the whole album. I do think it's a solid song, and I do think that it's one that they're going to open with this, I would imagine, on their on tour. And as such, it's going to be, anytime I've seen them live and they open with whatever the big song is, it's always a big deal, and they play it very well. So I'm excited to see this. I won't see it in a stadium, unfortunately. I won't get to the stadium tour, but they'll come back through in arenas, I'm sure.
For me, this was a fastball right down the middle. You're getting over. You're just trying to get that song. Basically what you said, Guillermo, is you just want people to know the Chili Peppers are back.
Yeah.
And I think that's, to me, the best way to do it is it may, I'm using this fastball analogy, and fastball down the middle is because it's going to be a hit. It's going to work. And hits are different now. Rock music hits are different than pop music hits.
Sure.
It's not going to be, BTS. It's not going to be Justin Bieber. But the idea, though, is to be relevant. And they are on every single late night show.
Yeah.
They were on Howard Stern. They're making appearances on things. And it's like, that's the idea of having a song like this, is just to be back, to be relevant again. And to me, this is what that song does. You know, I don't think this song probably makes my top 5 favorite song on the album. But to me, it is like the Chili Peppers song on the album too. It's just like, this is that song you started out, like perfectly said too. It's like first song out, first song on the album. If you're a Chili Peppers head, you've already listened to this song 10 times before the album came out, minimum. So you can just skip the track 2 and get ready for the rest of the album. So, you know, moving on that.
Can I do one more thing?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, Guillermo. Yeah.
Last thing, because I totally forgot to mention, because you guys mentioned about, like, you know, you hear the intro and you know it's John. Really cool guitar sort of like callback to like a lot of Jimi Hendrix stuff, which I feel like all of John Frusciante's playing is essentially a callback to Jimi Hendrix. But this is like almost straight out of like Hey Joe. Like, this is very 4 chords with that, you know, that kind of shape. I know how he's playing it with the thumb around, and he's got, you know, those little licks in the middle. Like, it's very, very much like, and there's one specific section where he even has like a little bit of like an effect where it's like, oh, that's the same like phaser effect that, like, you know, Jimmy uses on like everything. So I thought that was a cool thing too. Definitely, like, you know, like something of John's to be like, I want this to be obvious that this is like a Jimmy like callback. So, and I love that's one of the best things you can do as a musician, is to like do like a call to like something that, you know, came before. So I think that was the last thing I forgot to mention. But
no, I mean, if you're going to come here with like actual technical things, that Brendan and I are like, music's good. Like, I strum guitar. I play things here and there. I'm not like at all, you know, good at any of this stuff, but I just know basics. But that's it. And this is one of my jokes I'll say before, because I want to make sure I get this in. Every night that I get a little, maybe I have one too many pops and I don't buy an electric drum kit, I call that a win. Every night I don't do it. It's a win. I haven't done it yet. So one of these days.
Hey man, do it. That's what I always say.
I just want
Brenton's shaking his head.
Other songs that really stick. Yeah.
I just want to remind the audience, when it comes to like technical knowledge of music, that 2 weeks ago I admitted that I listened to Limp Bizkit.
And I listened to who did I say?
Fall Out Boy. Yeah.
Fall Out Boy.
Oh, Fall Out Boy's great. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
He didn't say anything about Limp Bizkit, but he's like, oh, Fall Out Boy.
It was the yeah. Okay.
I also said Panic at the Disco. So
it was the Guilty Pleasures episode.
Yeah, Guilty Pleasure
I don't
episode.
Tell people I listen to Limp Bizkit. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Wow.
Lay on, McDuff.
Yeah. Sorry about that, everyone. Man, got depressed. Okay. So
wow.
Guillermo, any other tracks that stick out to you, you know, on this album that you really think are standouts? Maybe you've listened to a couple times since the album came out, and you're like, this is a jammer.
Yeah. What's interesting is when I had first talked to Brenton, I think I had only listened to like half to 3/4 of the album. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, it's pretty good. And it's pretty, there's nothing like super, super sticking out. I really think the last like 3 or 4 songs for me were my favorite. I don't want to pick like one, but I'll say little things about like a few of them. Like, actually, Tangelo is, or I guess, yeah, I think he says Tangelo in the song.
Yeah.
That last track is actually up there, and it's super simple, and like they stripped everything back. But that's up there with one of my favorite tracks on the album. Also in the same key as Black Summer. So if you end the album on it, it starts over again. It's like a perfect like transition. Like it's very aesthetically pleasing, because you hear that little Black Summer intro and it's in the same key. So your ear's like expecting it. And then he starts to sing and the chords change in a way that they don't change in Tangelo. So it's almost like Tangelo, you get stuck in this little loop of a key signature. And then Black Summer starts in the key, but it's more of like a journey. It's like explores more of it. That's a cool thing. That
is a cool thing. It made me so happy.
90% sure was on purpose. Like they know, especially with like, I know Flea's a huge like music theory nerd, and he's like was super into jazz. Really, we got to come back to some of the trumpet stuff that's on some of the tracks, because that's really, really cool. I think Let 'Em Cry for me, which is the third to last song of the album, that's one of my favorites too. That's just a really fun song for me. Like, it's catchy and it has a lot of the different,
it's got a good bass
just
line.
chili pepper things on there.
Line.
They what?
It's got a good bass line.
Yeah, good bass and stuff. And then actually I wrote here, so Flea has a great duet going with the vocals, which is something I always like that Flea does. So yeah, absolutely. The trumpets do come back a little bit in this one. Veronica actually is another one I liked. That something about the lyrics really like drew me in. Cool lyrics, has a cool chord progression and a cool outro. One-Way Traffic Jam is a great. Should I not go through all of them? Did you just want me to say one that's my favorite?
No, it's fine. If you're, because like I like, honestly, you're kind of, and you're not going in the order that I have gone in my head, but like you're right. The last part of this album, and I shouldn't say you're right. We agree, is what I should say.
Oh yeah, sure.
The last part of this album is a absolute banger. Like, it's weird because once you get to 10, you're like, ooh, like, it's not to say it's sounding the same, but you just kind of, it's 10 songs. You've done 34 minutes or so. And then that last 8 songs change so much. It's like a whole different album. It's like you get a double album, but it's not. It's that whole weird thing.
It is, it is a double album.
Oh, is it?
Is it actually technically a double album? Okay.
Yeah, that was Anthony had said that in an interview, and I think that if you get it on vinyl, it's 4. Oh, it's 2.
It is 4
records.
I'm looking at the.
Oh, you got it
right here. Yeah, check it out.
You got it. Nice. I have it on order. I didn't get it yet.
Yeah, I'm nice. Probably getting.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I'm getting mine.
I'll fix that later.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna.
It is 4, and that's actually. I feel like that just made the album make more sense for me, dividing it up into like these little 4. Like chunks. That's very, very interesting. Well, I know I mentioned a lot of songs, but those were some of my favorites for sure.
Same.
I liked Great Apes too. I liked It's Only Natural is really, really cool. But I won't talk about like every track if we're gonna kind of go in a different order and do that too. But those were some of my favorites for sure. Like, to me, it's hard to pick a favorite track, but I'll say like that last quarter of the album is like my favorite, if that's fair.
No, I think that's, and I'll just go on and I'll go to Brent. That's where I'm at with this. I think the first part of the album is good and it's catchy enough, but the last part is just like, I don't know. It feels like they're going for like your heart at the end. They're just the first part, they're just kind of like playing around and it's fun. It's a good album. It's fun. But then it's the last part. It's like, now we're getting you. Now we want you. And to go off of your 17 goes back into 1, Tangelo goes in Black Summer. It's like, it's almost in a way of like the way the last part of the album hits. It's like, oh, now I have to re-listen to this again because I just got so hooked. Let me go back. But what about you, Brendan?
I'll start with the 2 that I actually don't care for. Because I'm, Mr. Negative. I'm
the villain.
Fair. Well, yeah, I'm the anti-hero. I'm not a big fan of the other 2 songs that they released prior to the full album, which was Not the One and Poster Child. Now, the Not the One thing is maybe because of my line of work, and I've heard so many fake gangbanger kids say, "Don't mess with me, I'm not the one." So that just might be a me problem.
Sure.
But I didn't really care for that or Poster Child. Probably I want to say my 1, 2, 3, 4 favorites in no particular order. Number 10, What You Thinking? Number 13, One-Way Traffic. 14, Veronica. And 3, Aquatic Mouth Dance. Veronica, like I said, this really reminded me, the album in general reminded me of By the Way. And my favorite song on By the Way, one of my favorite songs on By the Way is Midnight. And Veronica gave me kind of the same vibes as that song a little bit. The other ones, I just really like the lyrics on What You Thinking. Because it is kind of like there's like a flow to it, and it's like bordering on the edge of that sort of like rock rap sort of thing, but never really plunges into it, you know, in the same way that the great Fred Durst would do to really nobody. Fred Durst.
I'm sorry, Brent.
Stonewalled me. I was working. I thought it was great. No, not at all. Okay. Fair enough.
Oh, nice.
Give you the track there.
No, but yeah, I really like the lyrics on that, and you know, I those were probably my 4 favorite songs.
And I said, you know, what I thought too. The other thing about One Way Traffic is, since I live in California, and he talks about traffic being bad, it's so weird. And when this song came on, no joke, we got caught in a traffic jam for no reason. Like, we didn't know. Hilarious. We were just coming up from Ventura back to where we live.
Boom.
And normally this is a 25, 30-minute drive. If I'm driving, 40 for most people. And then we just get caught in this traffic jam. And this song starts playing literally, I kid you not, I wish I was making this up, literally the second where I'm like, I look over at James, like, I don't know what's happening. And it's just like, in the song just starts like on the beat. It was like a movie the way it started. And so maybe that has a thing with me on that song, because I've listened to it. It's the song I've listened to the most.
Mm-hmm.
I replayed it I replayed it the first time we heard it. I was like, oh, I got to listen to this again. Not just because this is weird, but I also really like that song. But yeah, the way this album finishes is just like so solid. You know, for me with this album, I really just thought the beginning was so much different than the end. And it, like Brent had said, the Anthony Kiedis said, it is a double album. It's weird when you listen when you just have the digital album, so you don't necessarily see that or notice that. Guillermo said it's four actual records, which is very cool. But, you know, we could go track by track. We could do something like that. But for me, it's like, where do you think this stands as a Chili Peppers album? I don't necessarily say we'd rank 1 to 12, but where do you think this fits in? Guillermo.
So I have an interesting take on that. Also great transition, because for One Way Traffic, I wrote that it perfectly encapsulates the album, because for me, the album is Stadium Arcadium without the heavy hitters, like without the super earwormy, super like singles like Danny California, Snow, Charlie. I mean, just I don't know, like Tell Me Baby, like all of the ones that's like everybody knows the melody like right off the bat. I feel like all the other songs that were on there, you like smush them and shake them up a little bit, and then you get this. And okay, there's a bunch of things I have on this, but One Way, and there are a lot of songs on this record that are like that, but One Way Traffic, the chorus has this different sound that you don't hear. I want to say you don't hear it on any Chili Peppers album, but you definitely don't hear it on Stadium Arcadium. And it's like One Way Traffic has it. And then there's a couple other songs. Did I write it down? Hold on. These Are the Ways also has it. Like if you listen to the chorus, it's a weird, like peppy kind of, I don't know if it's the chord progression. I haven't looked at it, but whatever it is, it's different enough to where it's like, I can tell that this is like a new album. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I know this is not a song from Stadium Arcadium because of this specific sound in this chorus right here. But if I only was listening to the verse of this song, I'd be like, it comes straight from Stadium Arcadium for me. There's another song. It's Only Natural. If you listen to that, for me, you could put that directly into Stadium Arcadium and it'd be perfect. It'd be like, it fits all the writing style. It fits like all that. And there's a couple songs like that. So I really think for me, this is like a Stadium Arcadium, almost like a mirror like image, which is interesting because if you look at the like album arts, Stadium Arcadium has a little bit of like, well, I guess they all kind of do, but I was going to say, if you look at Stadium Arcadium, it has like a color scheme. It's like blue, and then the letters are like yellow and red. And then Unlimited Love has a color scheme, and it's black and it's like red and green. And I just feel like the color scheme is simpler, and it almost like you can put them side by side, and it's like one's like the anti-Stadium Arcadium and one's like Stadium Arcadium. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's probably I've probably just made a lot of like correlations in my mind, because that's like somewhere along I decided that it was like Stadium Arcadium 2.0. But I really think there are a lot of things for it that like tie it in. Almost like I would love to go through both albums and like pair up songs, be like, this is the Stadium Arcadium version of this, and this is the Unlimited Love version, or something like that. Because I think there are a few in there that are really good, that are really good matches. And obviously a lot of stuff on this album alludes to like other, like, you know, lyrics from other songs and has sounds from other albums. But so for me, I almost feel like I could put this right next to like Stadium Arcadium, like just
Sure.
even if it was like before it, actually, like if it was like, you know, Unlimited Love and then Stadium Arcadium, it'd be like that chronologically could work for me. You know what I mean? Maybe minus those little giveaways that it's like that different thing that would never come back in Stadium Arcadium. But yeah, that's where it fits to me in the context of all the albums. It's like I don't know. It's just like kind of like a silhouette of Stadium Arcadium. You know what I mean? Like a little weird mirror of it. But
I think the teeter, it's just like the balancing it out. Like, oh, we're gonna give you this. I think that's a great way to picture it. Brandon, what about you?
Like I already said, I think for me it kind of reminds me most of By the Way, because it's just a little bit more understated, and I think that's what they were going for with that particular album. If I were to rank it, having listened to it a little bit more since I previously kind of in my head ranked it, I would say it is probably 5th for me, with Stadium Arcadium, or I guess in order above it being By the Way, Stadium Arcadium, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Californication. And then it falls. I think it's better than it's definitely better than the last two. I would say that it's just a more refined sound. And I know Guillermo and I were talking about this. Like Mother's Milk was like, it was like when you make a movie that's going to be a series, and the first movie's okay, but then the sequel is everything that they wanted the first movie to be, but couldn't do it. And that's where you have, that's where you have Mother's Milk, and then expand it out onto Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Yeah, it was a little raw, right? It's a little bit. Yeah, it was John and Chad's first album. It sounded like, I don't think that John was necessarily as like, the ideas were there, but I don't think that he was technically, you know, certainly not where he's at now, but even on the next album, it's probably from a sound point better than the 3 Jack Irons and Hillel Slovak albums. I do have a soft spot for Uplift Mofo Party Plan. I was listening to that the other day, and I actually, there's like some songs that you can hear, like Behind the Sun is kind of like a very distant preview of what was to come later with some of the softer jams and stuff like that. And then I've just never been a big fan of One Hot Minute. I just never really vibed with it. I know there's some there's some good songs, but it's just that's the only non-John album that I put up there with that. I like One Hot Minute a lot. I don't know what it is. It's just not for me. But yeah, it's a lot of funk and rough stuff for sure. But yeah, I mean, that's why I prefer Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Really is my favorite album, is because of the funk that's on it.
I think for me, I'm kind of like in between both of you. Like I could see this being a Stadium Arcadium, you know, right before, right after kind of thing. But then for me, I also just like, I may even rank it higher than 5. Like it just has this, and I think it's because it kind of goes back. It like calls back to what we want. Because, you know, Stadium Arcadium is probably, you know, I mean, it's the last Chili Peppers album up until this, where it really was the Chili Peppers. It was them doing their thing. It was a big album, a big tour.
28 tracks. 28
yeah,
tracks.
a big tour. Like Brenton and I saw them on Halloween.
Yep.
Like it was crazy. Like this was like one of those things where like it was so much bigger, and this was still like, you know, obviously the Chili Peppers are still popular and things, but this was the album. Like people that didn't even like the Chili Peppers were listening to this album. People were so, and I'm not saying that this Unlimited Love is doing that, because I don't even know what people do anymore with music. It's just, it's so,
I feel the same way.
Easily consumable and also so easily like puked out. So I don't know. But for me, this is like one of those things where like I really liked it way more than I thought.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things I listened to it in my car, and I went to school, and I'm in my classroom getting ready for the day, and I have it playing, and I'm just like, oh, I really like this. And I even texted Brent. I was like, I think I said like I'm a third way through, really, really love it. And then I just kept listening to it. And like usually I was doing other things on my breaks, and I just kept listening to it all day. And I finished it, and then we had our drive, and so I listened to it again. I was just like, do I think this is like, I don't, and it's so weird because it's that one thing, like I know Dallas said like, oh, if you listen to something enough, it'll get like ingrained in your head or whatever, and you think it's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with Dallas on that, because I think there's also a thing that pulls you back. There's some albums I've listened to once and never listened to again, and it's like, I'm good with it.
Do you think that this is art?
Oh,
I think it's art in the attic. I do think it's art in the attic.
Okay.
I love the "is this art" conversation. I used to, sorry, I had a professor that was always but do you think it's? Come on, man.
It's what I will say is it is art. There's a cat in the background. It's all those things. But it's always weird for me to rank someone's someone or the band's albums. But I will say for me, it's like, I will say it's one of those albums that like if I listen to Stadium Arcadium, I'm gonna probably just follow this right up. Or if I'm listening to this, I'm gonna, because this is what I did honestly. Like that night, he came home, and I just started listening to Stadium Arcadium, and it's like I haven't listened to that album actually in a really long time. I listened to Californication like 2 weeks ago, and Blood Sugar Sex Magic like maybe like a month ago, and then I was just like, but I have to listen to Stadium Arcadium, and it's something they do. And so for me, it's just like one of those albums. It's just, I think it's going to stick around. I think it's going to have, for at least people that like this kind of music, it's going to stick around. Obviously their tour is going to do really well and things like that. You know, if I can see them, I will for sure.
It's the thing with this is that, especially, and I know you wanted to talk about rock in general a little bit, Greg.
Yeah.
Like with what happened to Taylor Hawkins, you know that the Foo Fighters are going to be, who knows if they even come back from that. You know what I mean? And now it's like, what are the relevant rock bands?
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's literally where I was.
Not any relevant rock bands outside of like Chili Peppers, Weezer.
I would say the Killers are a relevant rock band.
Mark after that,
in the sense that
you know?
they sell out stadiums. That was actually going to be my first question, and we'll go right into it since you brought it up, Brenton.
Can I clear one thing real quick?
Yeah, you certainly can.
So when you asked the question about the albums first, I was like where it like falls for me. I was definitely thinking on an abstract kind of like.
Oh, me too. I was more on an abstract. Yeah.
It's not my second favorite Chili Peppers album. As great as it is, it definitely is.
No. I understand what you're saying. Brenton just gave us the full. I think whether you rank it actually chronologically or abstract is different, and because it's also, to me, it's so hard because I've talked about this, and I'll just do it. I'll say this. Okay. There's Taylor Swift albums that, like, if I listen, and I know this because sometimes I'm really more in the mood where I think something else is something I like more. There's nights where I think 1989 is a better album, and that's kind of a mood thing. And I think sometimes it's more the mood you're in than anything else. I think that can change.
Do you have like a booing sound?
I'm not gonna boo him.
1989 is a great album.
I love Brenton's reaction to that, but I think it's important because like just message for the audience is like that is how music works. Music has a function, and people like to like bottle like not bottle but put music in a box to where like every song should be listenable all the time, or every song should do this for me, or I should be able to be entertained. Like some music, the function is not entertainment, so not every song should be entertaining to you. So that is like a really good point that I 100% will side with you with. And like just even as a musician and music teacher, I want to make that like a super big thing, is like all music has a function, and the functions vary so much. So just on when you're, ranking albums and picking albums and stuff
it's
like
not
that. But
always accessible like other things are, like a movie is, or because I do think that music touches on so many moods, and it can be conveyed in so many different ways. That, and it's fascinating sometimes to hear people say, we've obviously talked very lovingly about the Chili Peppers and this album and overall their body of work, but there's some people who just don't vibe with that.
Sure.
And they and so this type of music's not accessible. I had a kid, through work, and I was on like a blues kick, and I was listening to Gary Clark Jr. like that was it for a while, and he was just like, man, this sucks. He's like maybe
not the best sound for that, but
or the best sound ever. It's one or the other.
But it was like, once he explained it, he was just like, I just don't like, because the kid plays guitar and he's a pretty talented guitar player. And he's like, I just don't like blues progressions. I was like, okay, then, that I can respect that, rather than just, this isn't some Fetty Wap song, or whatever the kids want to listen to these days.
Oh, if he plays guitar, he'll like blues at some point. Like,
at some point,
he thinks he won't, but
right. It'll hit him. He won't even know he likes it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's another hour-long discussion I could get into, is like, people don't realize you also have to learn to listen to music. Like, a lot of people think they don't like classical music, but like, that's like trying to read a more advanced book without like learning to read first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I won't get into that right now. But anyway,
we should though. We will probably do that at some point. Just like the art of music. And I didn't want to take this whole rock topic. The rock topic in another hour long, but just I think for me on this is who is relevant now. I mean, like, that is, if you were to say rock music and who is relevant, what is relevant, because it's weird. It's a weird place. And I'm not, obviously, I hate to go into this thing, but like, the Grammys happened, and whatever you think of the Grammys, it's whatever. I don't watch anymore. I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things, but the Foo Fighters did win a lot of the rock awards.
Yeah.
The Foo Fighters have been around for 30 years.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where, like, they're relevant to whatever degree, but is that good? Is it good that all the rock Grammys went to a band that's 30 years old? I mean, I think that's kind of the thing. So who is relevant anymore, or and the other thing I'll ask, does that matter?
I think it matters.
Okay.
Because I think it's like we're going to get another situation here in the next 15 to 20 years, like Nirvana, where somebody just comes along and is a rock band that just turns everything on its head and cancels to a degree, because Nirvana was such a reaction to that 80s glam hair metal, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, stuff like that. And Greg and I have had this debate. Greg thinks Nirvana is overrated. I in one episode I said, Larry Bird's not the greatest 3-point shooter of all time, but he's the most important three-point shooter of all time.
It's that historical relevance.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's what it is with Nirvana. I do think it's important who's relevant, because there are people today that still listen to the Rolling Stones. And you say, Grammy's going to a band that's 30 years old, and the Rolling Stones are most of the way dead.
Right.
Still sell out stadiums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I do think it's relevant. And so, like, who's out there that's making music that's not only, because Incubus makes music, right? I mean, Green Day still makes music, but who is, like you said, going on the late night shows, kind of serving as the ambassadors of rock music, of alternative rock music, to not only their existing fans, but also a younger generation. Because when we grew up, Greg, in the 90s, and we're obviously a little bit older, but when we grew up, that's what popular music was. That's what
it was rock music.
It was the Chili Peppers, it was Nirvana and the Foo Fighters, it was Stone Temple Pilots, it was Soundgarden, it was all of that.
And even to get off of that, Brent, and not to like sound weird, but it was also like Third Eye Blind, and they were still rock music.
It was a pop rock band.
It was pop rock, but it was still more rock than it was pop.
Or like,
and that's that
the
weird
Verve,
thing.
Or the Verve Pipe, or Oasis, or any of those bands that were kind of in that wheelhouse. But I just don't think that there's that anymore.
Yeah,
there's none of that bridge.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Those bands had that space to exist because of those bands you're talking about, which is the really, I think you're right. I don't know how much of like a space is being like created right now for whatever reason. One thing to get like, even more like meta than like just music and stuff in general. But this is an idea I go back to a lot with music, is where I always say like the pendulum swings back and forth, right? Always, like with all art, right?
Yep.
And so you see it with music like constantly, like since early Western music, like in Europe, and even like before that, right? But what's interesting right now, maybe the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years, probably like 20 years, I feel like the internet and just the availability of information, and like you said, it's so easy to get music, and there's so many like little niches that pop up and stuff. I feel like that speed of information has fucked the pendulum up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like, there's this thing where like, if you went to, was I talking about this with you guys, or was it somebody else? Like if you went to like Japan in like the 90s, all their music sounded like late 70s, early 80s music, because they were getting the culture from us, like delayed, and then it kind of a bounce back. But now you don't have that bouncing of like that natural evolution of art. You have this like weird genetically modified evolution of art, because it's like, I can hear something like instantly that, was recorded on someone's Mac, or I can hear like the relevance of like large, studios is almost kind of going by the wayside, which is important because like those studios in a way have their own sound, right? Those production, those labels, those stuff like that, they have certain artists they would sign, and those things would create those little waves of culture and waves of sound. And like now these bands are trying to sound like them, and now this genre became this because of that. But now it's like, it's just that speed of information again has messed up, like not messed up, but changed how that goes. So like you ask these questions, like, I don't know, like, is history going to repeat itself? Maybe not, just because the way things happen now is so different from the way information and culture used to travel. And it almost, I hate to be one of these like, fearmonger people, but like that's scary for culture and art, honestly. That's like, makes it like, you really like, it makes it hard to sell art being like, hey, this is like an important thing for society, which it really is. If you look back, like art is very, very important to society. But like, think about like for kids right now, art is just like Instagram. Art is a 30-second reel. Like it's like crazy.
It's an NFT.
Yeah, it's
weird.
I still don't even know what the hell that means.
Me barely. I know it's not fungible. That's about it. But so it's weird to bring it back down to the rock thing. It's like that. That is I think it is important. Like who are the big like basins of like rock that are creating the room for like all the other artists kind of around them. But then it's also a question of like, do we still need that when we have the internet? Like, honestly, if I was, well, not need it like you, but just, does it still function that way? Like I've told people like, dude, if you want to be like a famous musician, then you need one of your songs to become like a TikTok video.
Yeah.
And that's just,
the problem too, is I feel like, especially with rock music, in all of its subgenres of alternative rock and blues and everything, is there's a craft to it, and people don't want to spend the time learning that craft.
That's what art is. It's a craft.
Yeah, right. And it is infinitely important, because I can say across all mediums of art, whether it be like literal like paintings, music, television, movies, literature and books and video games, that those are the things that shaped who I am as a person. All of those things that I experienced in my formative, I was, like you said, I was known as the Chili Peppers guy, who's known as like TikTok account, like Sweet Tits McGee 69 guy. You know what I mean? But
I mean, maybe not to us, but I mean, that, right. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. It's
so important. And I mean, this is, then the education side of me coming out as far as like across the country, the arts are being cut in schools all over. Art, music, speech, all of that stuff is being reduced to rubble. To what end? So that some shitty school in the middle of nowhere can have new basketball jerseys every year. Like for kids that are never going to set foot on a college floor. Who the fuck cares? And so like, it is important, and it is not just the rock thing, but it is just the craft of music or the craft of art in some way.
Yeah. But this is a good example of it for sure. Even just this conversation, the Chili Peppers and rock and stuff.
I think for me too, and this maybe just my own thing, is sometimes like you find something you really like and you don't want it to get popular.
Sure.
Because you want it to be your own thing.
Mumford and Sons.
Really?
No, what I mean is like,
that's amazing.
No, what I mean is like something you like what I mean? Like, I don't want Mumford and Sons to get popular because I don't think it's good. But I mean, like sometimes you find a band.
First album was good. You liked it. Don't say you didn't.
I know. I don't like his voice. I don't like his voice. So that just doesn't work for me. But
I was there.
So we get what you're saying, though.
It's one of those things where like you and I say you is like the plural you. It's like you and maybe like, it sounds weird, but like 50,000 people like this band. You're like, I don't want this to get popular because if they get popular, then they're not going to be good anymore.
Right.
And because once they get that one hit on the radio, they're going to have their producers coming in and saying, hey, we want you to work with this person and this person. Like, well, that's not how we work. But it's like, well, look at the paycheck. And I'm like, I'm like I've always said, like, I'm ready to sell it whenever I can. And that's one of those things where it's like, I would take it too, even if the music's not as good. So I think there's possibly like that too. There's probably some really like good bands out there that we've never heard of, and they're just trying to stay under the radar, and they don't want to change. And I think that's a lot of it, because they're not TikTokable. They're not TikTokable.
There's that, but there's also because of YouTube, because I don't think like TikTok is one type of an example because of but because of YouTube and Spotify, because you can self-produce everything. When was the last time you listened to the radio on purpose?
Yeah,
like not because your Bluetooth wasn't working, or it's all shit. My phone's dead. Whatever. It's not like the radio is not the thing anymore. You know what I mean? Like I'm listening to a bunch of local acts from Youngstown. They're never going to be on the radio. You know what I mean? And they're very good, and they're just as likely to make it as TikTok people, because it's a quality thing. But their music's also accessible because it is on YouTube. It is on Spotify,
right? Positives from that too. I totally see there obviously a lot of pros to it as well. I wasn't trying to be like scary. I was more when I started off on that, I was kind of going on in the vein of like, it makes it hard to predict stuff,
sure.
Right.
And then I got a little bit spooky of like, the internet.
That's kind of everything now, though. That's everything now. Like, I mean, even to go at journalism's different than it is. You can't predict the way journalism, but just to kind of, I guess, to put a bow on all this, what do you think this album maybe does for rock going forward? If it does anything at all. Guillermo.
This is what, and I guess, okay, let's do for the Chili Peppers. Here's what I would like imagine in my like ideal world. I don't know how to say it. You know what I mean? I think this album, good setup for final album. You know what I mean? Like this sets them up. I could see one more, and then like really, really good. Like I think this is a great setup album, like a great setup. Did all the right things. And I think it's a good, like, I don't want to say palate cleanser, but it's a great, I think if that happened, that'd be like the ultimate, like Chili Peppers. That's it. They did it. I think they're all time for me, easy. I think this could be a great setup for them for one like last album and like a special one too, like special like
40 40 tracks.
40
well, I don't know about 40, yeah.
But, just go hard. Whatever.
Yeah, just something like that. And then for rock, I mean, I don't really know. I don't even know how this album is gonna affect things. I feel like it'll be good for a while, but it's just I think it's gonna be good for the old like rock like fans and the Chili Pepper fans. I think it's for us, as far as like the state of rock and popular music, I don't know how much of like an impact it has on it. Hopefully maybe brings back some more like love for like live music, because Chili Peppers is, I think, a great live act and a great jam band. So maybe some of that. But yeah, I think more important to me is that this would be great if it set up one like last special album. I think that'd be cool.
That would be cool. Brendan?
I agree with that. I think that would be a great idea. And realistically, I think that Flea and Anthony just want to like chill and watch Lakers games at this point.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. But as far as
what
it does
this season, but
sure. As far as what it does for rock, I think that the Foo Fighters lately have not been as accessible because they've gotten heavier and heavier over the last like 10 years since Echo's Patience, Silence, and Grace. And they did some weird concept albums too in there where they were doing like, here's an album in, studios that are in the back of a paint store or whatever. I think that this does kind of help put rock music back on the map, but their sound is so difficult to replicate that, in the 90s, all jokes aside, we got bands like Linkin Park and the Foo Fighters or the Limp Bizkit because they were trying to replicate that rap rock sound.
Right.
And it came off as not being able to be rap rock in the same way. And it ended up being nu metal, which isn't great.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like Linkin Park.
Sure. I mean, did you like it enough to give it the win in the Lincoln tournament?
I guess not, right? Because I think the hat won.
Lincoln's hat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tournaments are weird.
Tournaments are weird. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what this does for rock music is it maybe shines a brighter light, so to speak. It's a shame that like Taylor Hawkins dying had to shine a light was what it took to shine a light on rock music. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I did hear someone that, Taylor Hawkins was cool, and the cool people who die. And it's a bummer, but it did bring back that music, and it happened right before the Chili Peppers came back. And, I'm sure if Taylor Hawkins, if you could ask him if his dying and then Chili Peppers coming out brought rock a little bit of life, he'd probably be like, that's okay. And I hate to be grim about that, but that guy loved rock.
Get you. Yeah.
I mean, there's just one of those things where like he loved rock and he wanted rock music just for everybody. And, I think for me to have the Chili Peppers back in the popular culture is cool.
That's fun.
And it's just like, because the last time they had an album, they weren't on every single late night show. They were on a few, and maybe like Anthony Kiedis appeared on something or whatever like that, but it wasn't like they were. It feels like, and it sounds weird because I don't want to say this, and it feels like they're trying again. Yeah. As much as that sounds weird, but it's just like they're trying to be something. They're trying to say like rock is cool, rock is for the children. And if you've read Flea's book, have you ever read Flea's Acid for the Children?
I haven't. Mm-hmm. I haven't read Flea's book.
It's great. I read it before it came out. One of those little perks. I can't recommend it enough. It's like him standing on a chair and just talking, and then someone just transcribed him talking. It's great. It's crazy, but it's great, and you really get the love of music that he has. But more importantly, like the more of the love of life that he has, in which I think he exudes more than anyone.
Yeah.
And music, like there's just something about watching him. I saw him play the national anthem for the Lakers game the other day, and just him playing the bass.
Yeah.
And when he shifts it from a really slow to him just being Flea, there's something about that. And it's like, and that's cool again. It's like, and that had like 150,000 views, and it's all those things. So, I think for me, that's the bow on that. I think, who knows anything with music? We don't know. We didn't know BTS was anything 5 years ago, and then they're, huge.
Is that different than NFTs?
It is. It is different. But Guillermo, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Promote the pod. Whatever you want to say.
Oh yeah.
I just had sex. I'm about to eat nachos. It's the greatest moment of my life.
Great. I'm gonna leave a space here in case you want to cut it.
Nope, it's good.
Yeah. I'm Guillermo. I absolutely love that you guys invited me. I always have an awesome time talking to you guys. I'm from a podcast called Tournament Style with one of my best friends, Austin Garza. And essentially, we do a tournament every week. It can be about anything. Brenton mentioned we tournamented Lincoln things. As kooky as that sound, this past episode is going to be about what was it? Oh, mascots. Most useless skill. Oh, and then mascots.
Okay. Was useless skill.
Yeah, nice. We stole it from Barstool Sports this time, but it was a fun episode. So, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, all the places where you can find us. But honestly, I just want to say thanks for having me on. I love talking music, and I love talking to you guys. So pretty much that does it for me. Shout out to you guys on your podcasts. There you go.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to think of my best useless skill. You know what I'm really good at? I'll just get into that. The commercial breaks. Like if I leave a sport and then hit it off the commercial to something else, I'm back that first pitch.
Oh,
like timing, I am so good at that. It's stupid. That's my best useless skill.
My best useless skill is my master's degree in education.
Yeah. Music. Yeah. Master's in music. Yeah.
You're a music teacher.
Well, at least is a strong word there.
I just scare kids. That's my job.
Honestly, that's my job too.
Mine too. I average 2 kids crying a week now. All right, Guillermo. Once again, thanks again. Listen to Tournament Style, guys. It's great. It's one of my favorite podcasts too. I listen to a lot too. It's really great. So thanks again, Guillermo. Thanks everybody for listening.
Take
Weekend hug.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Yeah. Ciao. Aloha.